Ethan had always known that frontier spaceports were messy, chaotic places. Ships of all shapes and sizes drifted into orbit, often battered, malfunctioning, or entirely beyond hope. He liked the challenge. As a human engineer far from Earth, the work gave him purpose, and occasionally, adventure he hadn't expected. On this particular morning, he was inspecting a wrecked vessel that looked almost alive with its curves and bioluminescent panels. It had obviously suffered serious damage during landing, and he could hear faint, irregular distress signals emanating from its hull. Curiosity and a stubborn sense of responsibility drove him closer. The craft's surface was smooth and metallic, with lines that almost seemed like veins pulsing with energy. Ethan tapped the hull, trying to locate the source of the signals. They led him to a hatch that was partially ajar. Beyond it, a figure struggled, glowing faintly under the fractured lights inside. The figure was humanoid, but unlike any human Ethan had ever seen. Her skin shimmered with subtle silver tones, and her hair floated in defiance of gravity, as if each strand had a life of its own. She wore an exosuit that had clearly seen better days, with sparks flying from a broken joint near her shoulder. "You need help," Ethan called, trying to sound calm despite the nerves dancing in his chest. The figure froze, turning her eyes toward him. They were large, almond-shaped and violet, and for a moment he felt as if they were looking straight through him. Then she spoke, her voice melodic but sharp. "I do not require assistance." Ethan swallowed. "Well, it looks like you might. That suit is sparking pretty badly, and I'm guessing it's not supposed to do that." She frowned. There was a subtle twitch in the corner of her eyes, almost amusement, almost irritation. "You are a human." "Yes," he admitted. "I'm an engineer, name S. Ethan." "I am Princess Lyra of the Zethurian Empire," she said, her tone formal. Even in distress there was authority in her voice. "And you are trespassing." Ethan raised his hands, careful not to make sudden movements. "I don't mean to trespass, I just heard your signals. That's why I came." Lyra studied him for a moment, and then, to Ethan's astonishment, she gestured for him to come closer. "If you can repair this," she said quietly, almost reluctantly, "you may live." The audacity of the statement made him blink. "Live? Right, sure. Okay, let's see what we're working with." The exosuit was far more complex than anything Ethan had ever repaired. Its joints moved with smooth fluidity, almost like they were alive, and its internal circuits glowed with alien energy. He had tools, but nothing designed for Zethurian technology. Still, he had solved impossible problems before, and he enjoyed a challenge. He knelt beside the suit and began assessing the damage. Sparks flew, panels hissed, and Lyra occasionally groaned in discomfort as he worked. Ethan's hands moved quickly, improvising with earth-based tools. He replaced circuits with conductive alloys he had on hand, rewired connections, and reinforced fragile joints. As he worked, Lyra watched silently, occasionally offering terse advice in a language Ethan could barely follow. She had a sharp mind. It was clear that she understood the mechanics of her suit far better than most Zethurians. Yet she had been caught off guard, unprepared for the sudden malfunction, and that had made her vulnerable. Hours passed. Sweat beaded on Ethan's forehead as he leaned into the work, carefully aligning delicate components. He had just finished stabilizing a particularly damaged joint when the entire suit hummed, lights flickering across its surface. The spark ceased. Lyra tested her movements carefully. "It functions," she said softly, almost in disbelief. "You're welcome," Ethan said, grinning. "I don't usually get to save alien royalty, though. Feels kind of cool." Lyra's violet eyes narrowed. "You call this saving? You were in a bad situation, suit was failing, might have been catastrophic. I think that counts," Ethan said. He offered a small shrug. "I'm not sure if your culture counts it as heroic, but in human terms I think it does." For a moment, Lyra said nothing. Then unexpectedly a small smile curved her lips. "Impressive, human. You may have more value than I assumed." Ethan blinked. Thanks, I think." Before he could respond further, a group of Zithurian guards stormed into the chamber, their weapons raised. "Princess Lyra," the lead guard barked, "you are to return immediately. Who is this human?" Lyra stiffened but did not speak. The guard's eyes narrowed at Ethan. A human engineer had no business aboard a royal vessel, let alone touching the princess's equipment. Ethan raised his hands again, a nervous habit. "I didn't mean to look, I just fixed her suit. That's all. No harm done." Lyra stepped forward, placing herself between Ethan and her guards. "He has proven capable," she said carefully, her voice cutting through the room. "And for that he is chosen." The guards froze. Ethan's stomach lurched. "Chosen?" he asked, unsure if he had heard correctly. Lyra's eyes met his. "My chosen consort," she declared. The room erupted into gasps. The guards stared in disbelief, unsure whether to follow orders or challenge their princess's unexpected decision. Ethan, still kneeling beside the repaired suit, was too stunned to speak. "Consort?" he whispered, barely audible. "Wait, you mean me?" "Yes," Lyra said, a strange mix of seriousness and something softer beneath her formal tone. "You have proven ingenuity, courage, and adaptability. These are traits my people respect, yet few humans have displayed." "You have my favor." Ethan tried to process her words. He had repaired alien technology, sure, but this was on a completely different level. I don't know if I'm ready for." "Ready or not, human, you are chosen," Lyra interrupted. "Come aboard my ship. There is much you must learn." Before Ethan could argue, he was escorted to the princess's ship. As he stepped onto the bridge, the scale of the Zithurian fleet became clear. Massive ships floated gracefully in orbit, their surfaces gleaming with alien light. Ethan felt both awed and out of place. He was human, a species still considered primitive in some corners of the galaxy. And yet, Lyra had singled him out. As the ship lifted off, Ethan tried to wrap his mind around what had just happened. The princess, royalty of a powerful empire, had declared him her consort after he fixed her suit. It sounded absurd, even impossible, yet the confidence in her eyes left no doubt. Over the next few hours, Ethan learned about life aboard a royal Zithurian vessel. The crew was cautious around him, curious, respectful, and occasionally skeptical. He met advisors and scientists, each of whom seemed to radiate intellect and efficiency. Yet they all deferred to Lyra's judgment. And she watched him carefully, measuring his reactions, his courage, his adaptability. During a briefing, an advisor mentioned threats from rival factions within the empire who were suspicious of outsiders, especially humans. Ethan realized that his presence as Lyra's consort would have political consequences far beyond his imagination. That evening, as the ship glided silently past a field of sparkling asteroids, Lyra approached him. Her exosuit now repaired, she looked far less vulnerable and far more imposing. "You performed well," she said, her voice calm. "But this is only the beginning." Ethan swallowed hard. "Beginning of what?" Lyra's gaze turned toward the stars outside the viewport. "Of tests. Of trials. Of proving your worth not just to me but to my people." Ethan felt a mix of excitement and dread. He had repaired her suit, and in doing so had earned an impossible honor. But the universe he had stepped into was full of danger, intrigue, and expectations far beyond anything he had faced before. For the first time in his life, Ethan realized that being human, ingenious, adaptable, resilient, was more than just a survival skill. In the right circumstances, it could make a difference on a galactic scale, and he would need every ounce of it to survive what was coming next. As he prepared for the unknown challenges ahead, Ethan glanced at Lyra. There was something in her eyes, a mixture of respect, curiosity, and perhaps trust. He didn't know what being her consort truly meant, but he knew one thing: he would rise to the occasion, whatever it took. The stars outside the ship seemed endless, full of possibilities. And for the first time, Ethan felt like he had been given a purpose that was larger than himself, a purpose that could change the fate of two species, starting with him. Ethan had barely caught his breath when he realized that being named the Zithurian princess's chosen consort came with far more responsibility than he had imagined. The ship hummed quietly around him, its corridors glowing with alien light, yet the serenity was deceptive. Every glance from the crew, every movement in the shadows, reminded him that he was a human in a world built for an advanced alien civilization, fragile perhaps, but noticed. Lyra led him to a large observation deck, where the stars stretched infinitely in every direction. "You must understand," she said, her voice calm but firm, "being my consort is not only an honor, it is a test. There are factions within my empire that do not accept you. You will have to prove your worth or you will not survive." Ethan nodded, trying to appear more confident than he felt. "Survive, right. I'm used to hard work, princess. I think I can manage." Lyra raised an eyebrow. "Hard work alone will not be enough. You must think beyond human limits. You must anticipate, adapt, and act when others hesitate. Do you understand?" "I understand," he said, though he had no idea what he was truly stepping into. The first test came sooner than he expected. An alarm blared through the ship, and the crew rushed to their stations. Ethan followed Lyra to the bridge, where glowing displays indicated that a faction of rogue Zithurian ships was approaching rapidly. Their intent was clear: intercept and capture the princess, perhaps even harm her. Lyra turned to him. "They know of your presence. They see you as a weakness. You will need to act." Ethan's mind raced. He wasn't trained in combat or alien tactics, but he was human, and humans had a particular strength: ingenuity. He scanned the ship systems. "We can't outgun them," he said quickly, "but maybe we can outthink them. If we lure them into the asteroid field and use the graviton channels, we can trap them temporarily." Lyra's violet eyes widened slightly. "And the humans call this improvisation." "Yes," Ethan replied. "We improvise." Within minutes, he directed the ship's navigational systems, rerouting power and initiating holographic decoys that mimicked the ship's trajectory. The rogue fleet, confident in their speed and technology, pursued blindly into the asteroid field. There, Ethan's plan unfolded perfectly. Gravity fluctuations and the tight maneuvers of the ship created confusion among the enemy ships. Several collided with asteroids, their hulls cracked, while others retreated, forced to regroup. Lyra studied him, her expression unreadable. Then for the first time a small, approving smile appeared. "Perhaps your species is not as primitive as I assumed," she said. Ethan grinned. "We have our moments." This victory, however, only drew attention to him. Throughout the Empire, whispers spread of the human consort who had saved the princess. Some admired him, but many viewed him as a dangerous anomaly, a human who could not belong among the Zithurian elite. Over the next several days, Ethan faced further trials. He learned the intricacies of Zithurian diplomacy, navigating court debates and negotiations that often involved life-and-death stakes. Rival nobles attempted to discredit him, questioning his loyalty, intelligence, and even his humanity. But Ethan approached each challenge as he did engineering problems, carefully observing, understanding the system, and applying a solution where others might falter. One particularly tense moment occurred during a council meeting, when an influential advisor accused him of being a spy for a rival species. Ethan remained calm, listening carefully to every accusation. Then, with precise logic and calm reasoning, he presented evidence that not only disproved the claims, but also revealed a hidden plot against the princess orchestrated by the same advisor. The council was stunned into silence, and the advisor was swiftly removed from influence. Lyra observed the entire exchange silently, then placed a hand on Ethan's shoulder after the meeting. "You are learning quickly," she said, "perhaps faster than some of my own people." Despite these challenges, Ethan's bond with Lyra grew stronger. In private, they trained together, Lyra teaching him advanced combat techniques and alien strategies, and Ethan sharing human problem-solving methods and creative thinking. Through these sessions, Lyra began to see the value of human adaptability. They saved one another during simulations, each learning to trust instincts and intuition rather than rigid protocol. It was during a dangerous mission to a distant mining colony that Ethan's ingenuity truly shone. The colony had been attacked by space raiders, leaving the inhabitants trapped under collapsed structures and failing life support systems. The Zethurian fleet prepared a full-scale assault, but Ethan proposed a different approach. Using improvised tools and a combination of human engineering techniques with Zethurian technology, he devised a system to stabilize the structures temporarily, reroute power to life support systems, and evacuate the miners safely. The plan worked flawlessly. The miners were saved, and the raiders were forced to retreat when confronted by the fleet. Lyra was visibly impressed, her earlier admiration now mingled with deep respect. "You are remarkable," she said quietly. Ethan shrugged modestly. "Just doing what humans do best, figuring out impossible problems with what we have on hand." Word of his deeds spread quickly. Across the Empire, humans were spoken of with newfound respect. Ethan's actions demonstrated not only courage, but a quality that the Zethurians had rarely acknowledged in humans, creativity born of necessity. However, the greatest trial came when a rogue faction within the Zethurian Empire attempted a full-scale coup. They had mobilized a fleet to attack Lyra directly, intending to capture or kill her and erase Ethan from influence. The odds were overwhelmingly against them. As the enemy fleet closed in, Lyra turned to Ethan. "This is the moment that will decide everything," she said. Ethan's mind raced. Outnumbered, outgunned, and in the midst of political chaos, he relied on what he had learned: human ingenuity, adaptability, and the trust he had built with Lyra. He suggested dividing the enemy fleet by using gravitational anomalies and creating unexpected decoys that mimicked fleet formations. He coordinated with the Zethurian ships, blending human improvisation with alien precision. The battle that followed was tense and chaotic. Explosions rocked the void as fleets maneuvered around asteroid belts, gravitational vortices, and energy storms. Ethan's plan unfolded with precision. Enemy ships collided, retreated, or were trapped in energy fields. Lyra, confident in Ethan's guidance, led the counteroffensive personally. When the dust settled, the rogue faction was defeated. Lyra's position was secured, and the Empire celebrated her victory. Yet she sought Ethan out immediately, placing a hand on his shoulder. "You have done more than repair my suit or save me in a moment of weakness," she said. "You have proven that humans, your people, have strength, creativity, and courage that rivals the greatest of my empire. You have earned the respect of my people and my trust beyond measure." Ethan felt a mixture of relief, pride, and awe. He had come to the frontier spaceport as a human engineer, and now he stood beside a princess, having faced trials that tested both intellect and courage. I didn't expect this," he admitted. Lyra smiled, her violet eyes shining. "Few do, human. That is the nature of greatness. It is often hidden until revealed under pressure. You have revealed it." In the following days, Ethan was formally recognized not just as Lyra's consort but as a valued partner in leadership. His ideas were sought in planning missions, strengthening the empire and improving diplomatic relations. Humans, once considered minor players in the galactic stage, were now seen as capable allies, largely thanks to Ethan's courage and ingenuity. Ethan reflected on everything he had experienced. He had survived threats, learned alien strategies, and even influenced the direction of an interstellar empire. Yet more importantly, he had proven something essential. Humanity's adaptability, creativity, and determination could make a profound difference, even in a universe that often underestimated them. One quiet evening, he stood beside Lyra in the observation deck once more. The stars stretched endlessly, a tapestry of light and possibility. "You know," he said softly, "I never thought being human would matter this much out here." Lyra's eyes softened. "It matters more than you know. You are proof that courage and ingenuity are universal languages. You have earned your place not only at my side but in history." Ethan smiled, feeling the weight of the journey behind him and the possibilities ahead. "Then I guess we've got a lot to do," he said. Lyra nodded, her expression resolute. "The galaxy is vast, full of challenges and opportunities, and together we will face them." As the ship sailed through the stars, Ethan realized that the universe was no longer a place where he was just a human engineer. It was a place where humans could make a difference, where courage and intelligence mattered more than status or species. And beside him, Lyra, the princess, the leader, his companion, was proof that even in a galaxy of wonders, human potential could shine brighter than any star. Ethan took a deep breath and looked out into the infinite expanse. The adventures ahead were unknown, but for the first time in his life, he felt ready. Humanity had earned its place among the stars, and he, ordinary, creative, adaptable Ethan, was living proof. The stars stretched endlessly before them, full of promise, danger, and discovery. And with each passing moment, Ethan knew that no matter what the galaxy threw at him, humans, clever, resilient, and determined, would rise to meet it. Together with Lyra, he would face the universe, and humanity would shine.